I want to start by giving a little bit of backstory to this whole ordeal. I don't want to put my name out there, so I'll just say my name is Adam. I moved out of my parents' house almost 5 months ago when I found a posting for a job that included a living apartment above it. I won't go into too much detail about my life before that, but I was eager to leave my situation behind and have a life of my own freely, so I jumped on the opportunity. I called the phone number provided and talked to a kind older-sounding woman who took down my name and answered a few of my questions. At first, I was skeptic and expressed as such, understandable given how well-paying it was and all that came with accepting the job. She assured me it was a real offer and that the reason for that was because they were struggling to find anyone that would stay at the job for more than a few weeks. Obviously this was a red flag, and I even tried to press for more information, but she was reluctant to tell me more. Most people would have left then and there, and rightfully so, but like I said, I was in a bad situation and needed out, so desperation won over logic and reason. The job was to take care of a store in a small town some miles over from where I grew up. I would be in charge of the whole store, all besides ordering stock, as the lady over the whole said they order stock periodically at their end, so I would just have to worry about unloading and shelving things. I didn't have a car, so I had to ask a local friend to drive me over. I explained to them the whole thing and, obviously, they didn't think it was a good idea, but they also understood what position I was in, so they quickly let it be. Part of me wishes they hadn't, but hindsight is 20/20, so they say. When we rolled into the sleepy town of Pinewood, named very originally after the fact that it was, in fact, in the middle of a pine-forested area, I already felt this sense of offness. Now, you hear stories about this all the time, people driving through creepy old towns where the residents just stare at you as you pass by, but that was what this town was like. Both me and my friend were extremely creeped out by this. He even asked me multiple times if I was absolutely sure about this, but honestly between living in some creep town and going back to my parents, I would room with a serial killer if I had to. We got to the store, which was situated at the far end of the main street running through the town, a general store, looking somewhat run down in that typical old town sort of way, where it almost has a charm to it. I will admit, the charm did kind of pull me in a bit, and I figured maybe the townsfolk just didn't get a lot of people running through, let alone moving in, or maybe I was just trying hard to convince myself this was normal. The old lady I talked to over the phone met me at the door, where the other town folks had just stared. She seemed in high spirits and honestly just a sweet old lady, maybe in her 70s. Keeping with the theme of anonymity, for the rest of this retelling of events, I'll be calling her Ms. Sylvie, or just Sylvie. Sylvie greeted me with such warmth and politeness that I honestly forgot all about all the odd goings-on that lead to this point. This was the conversation to the best I could remember. Sylvie, you must be Adam. Such a handsome young man. Thank you so much for taking over the store. This old place is a staple in this town, and I'm just too old to keep it running, you see. Me, not a problem at all, miss. Really, I should be thanking you. I mean, you're giving me a home and a paying job at that. Really, thank you so much. Sylvie, oh hush, think nothing of it. Exchanging a few more pleasantries, she took my hand into both of hers in a handshake. I remember her hands were cold, not like corpse cold, but still colder than I felt was natural given that it was the end of spring rolling into summer. I didn't pay it much time as my friend took my 2 suitcases from the car. "Is that all your belongings, dear?" Sylvie asked, pointing a wrinkled finger at what housed all I had to call my own. "Yeah, not much, but it's enough," I replied. Mostly it was clothes, a laptop I had been given by the friend that was driving me after he got a new one, and a few other odds and ends. Sylvie nodded, maintaining that warm and welcoming smile she had on the whole time. "If you find you're in need of any clothes, Mr. Corrigan owns the tailor shop down the way. You can take anything we sell here if you have need of it. Of course, it will be taken out of your pay, with a discount of course." I nodded, following her hand motioning to the direction down the street. The street looked deserted, as if it had been long since abandoned and left to rot with not a soul in sight. Sensing what I was thinking, not that I was doing much to hide it on my face, Sylvie continued. "Most of this here town is old folks like myself. It's a quiet place, not much life in the late afternoon and evenings. There are a few younger couples, older than yourself, but they grew accustomed to the quiet times we tend to adhere to. That being said, we do ask that you keep sound to a minimum in the later hours. Us old folks need our beauty sleep, you know." At that, she let out a laugh, the kind that you'd hear any old lady at a retirement home make. Honestly, she had a charm to her. The way she talked gave an air of maternity, a sense of genuine care for whoever she spoke to or of. "Now then, if you follow me, dear, I'll show you to your apartment. It isn't much, but it should do well for someone living by themselves." By myself. It was at that moment that the sheer thought really dawned on me. I suppose, to most people this would be a rather chilling thought, loneliness, but I found comfort in it. My parents were never a comfort to me, and I would spend most of my time alone anyhow. I grew accustomed to it, welcomed by it, my safe space. Sylvie led me through the store. It was rather small, but that was to be expected, I suppose. In a way, it was cute, a small general store for a small town, a few aisles with stocked shelves, some fridges in back for meats and frozen goods, and a few more, well, general items. In the back was where I would be most of the time, a cashier's counter, a shelf behind stocked with cigarettes, and a mirror to see at some parts of the store. The place didn't have any sort of surveillance, which I guess was on point for a store that old, and in a sleepy little town, I suppose crime isn't too common anyhow. Next to the cashier's counter was the door to the storage room, with a freezer along the back wall and the rest just shelves. Through there was the door to the stairs leading up to my apartment, and a door leading outside to the back where the garbage was. Going up the stairs as my friend helped carry my bags, I reached the top, a long hallway greeting me, the lights a dim yellow with that all too familiar fluorescent buzzing. My door was the first, and then after was one other door at the end. I looked at it somewhat puzzled, figuring it must be the apartment next door, though unlike mine, there was no peephole and there seemed to be quite a few locks on it. It was hard to see from the angle I was standing, but it was strange for sure. Unlocking the door and letting me in, I got my first view of the place. It certainly didn't feel small to me, but then again, a cardboard box would have likely been a welcoming home to me at that point. But the place was more than I could ever ask for, A small living room right at the door. No TV, but that was fine. A dining room on the other end, which sat across from a rather large kitchen. The whole place was outdated with walls covered in wallpaper, that vintage yellow in the kitchen, the couch in the living room spotted with flowers. Some would likely call it tacky, but I found a charm in it. It felt like the kind of place someone could call home.